right, so since we're lighting the front of her face, it's actually nice to have Juliana in a spot where the sun is hitting the back of her head. Again, it's like two light sources and you just want to mess with it as much as possible. Now I've placed this off to the side so we'll get a little bit of a short light, but not too dramatic. I don't want to create a ton of shadows because I do want this to look somewhat natural. I don't want it to look crazy. I almost want it to look like I'm throwing a reflector in her face, but I'm not. The reflector is nice, but because I don't have an assistant, not so great if I want to shoot with a long lens. Perfect. These look pretty good. You know, they look natural. She's lit well, but she's not overlit. You know, she's not looking like she has a studio light there. It looks like natural light, but a little bit more pop. So I have Jennifer with V-flats behind her. The key to doing this is having more of a dark background because the glitter bomb effect is going to show up a lot more that way. I did also black out my exposure. I do have a grid on here. This is a 5-degree grid so that I'm just pointing the light right at Jennifer. I don't want to light the background at all because then my glitter bomb effect of flashing myself isn't going to show up so great. Gonna go ahead and turn on this. This is set to 7.6 while this light is set to 6. I'm actually going to go a little bit higher. I'm going to go half stop higher. So you usually want to have this light brighter, but it's really like a kind of play to figure out where it works. Now the fun part is you flash yourself. You just have this light pointed directly at your lens and you move it around and get a bunch of different shots, getting that kind of look. You have a glitter bomb. And it's also acting like a little bit of a fill light. As you go around and move the light around your lens, you're gonna get different effects as it goes around. And you can see it almost like going around in a little bit of a circle. So now we're moving on to my absolute favorite thing, the OCF gels. So let's just pop these babies on. And we're gonna give Alina a little bit of hair light. It's gonna look really great on Alina because I'm gonna be able to shoot with natural light and just use this nice golden color as a hair light for her, which is really gonna bring out the red in her hair. So I'm gonna have my light just off to the side, a little bit higher, almost mimicking the sun. I want it behind her because I don't want the orange light to hit any part of her face, and I'm also choosing to put it on the side where her part is, or rather the opposite side of where her part is. So most of the hair is on this side. I want to light up most of the hair. Okay, so bring all this hair around this side because that's the side we're really exaggerating. Actually, and I kind of like how you're doing that. Just pretend like you're playing with it. Yep. Eyes up to me. Perfect. Bounce flash is super helpful in any kind of events or indoor area. Using direct flash doesn't usually give you a very flattering light pattern. You need a flash. I'm using the Profoto A10 here, but the concepts that I'm teaching you will work with any kind of flash that you are using. It's about where you're pointing the flash, not necessarily what flash you have. So this will not work if you are in a place that has dark ceilings. Will not work at all. If you have light ceilings like this, it's going to work perfectly. This, where you've got basically a big white tent, is ideal. So these photos are probably going to look better than most bounce flash videos that you've seen because this is an ideal scenario. If you're in a building where there is some dark walls and some light walls, get used to where that light colored wall is. That's going to be your friend. Now, what you want to do is have control of the head of your flash, and you need a flash that tilts and swivels around like this. If there is only one light wall or ceiling, you're going to always point this light at that wall or ceiling. Now, preferably, I like to point it a little bit back and at about a 45-degree angle up. The reason being is it's gonna bounce up that way, and when it comes and bounces back at my subject, I'm going to light their face. So depending on which direction they're turned, that's where I want to point the light. Once you get your base exposure, turn on your flash, and I like to have it set to TTL. I want my flash doing the work for me, especially since I'm moving around constantly. It needs to reevaluate how bright the flash needs to be. All right, so Juliana is going to keep her face towards this direction, which means I'm going to point my light towards that direction. Now again, if you only have one white wall, one light colored wall, your choice is to point your flash at that light no matter where you're standing or where your subject is. If you have control, you might want to plan that out. All right, let's go ahead and take a shot. Great. So as you can see with this photo, the light is towards and going into her eyes. Looking for some inspiration? Then make sure you download my free posing inspiration guide. It's full of ideas for individuals, couples, and groups. Grab it in the link below. There's a few things that you're going to need in order to photograph a nighttime scene with a subject properly. For how we're going to shoot this, you're going to use a tripod. Obviously you need your camera, and then I do suggest that you have two different off-camera flashes. I have two Profoto B10s. One of them is going to be used to backlight your subject, and the other one is going to be used to light your subject's face. The one lighting your subject's face, ideally you have some kind of modifier on it, just softening it or maybe even directing it. I had an off-camera flash beauty dish, a portable beauty dish from Profoto on the light that was lighting her face, and then on the backlight, I either shoot it raw or I shoot it with a grid. The grid really helps to direct the light without overexposing the ground. You don't want the ground to be super overexposed and blowing out, because then the viewer's attention just goes straight to the ground instead of to your subject's face. Don't worry about your lights. Just set your exposure for the background. Make sure that it's good, as if you were just photographing a night scene. Now it's time to set up your subject and set up your lights. Place your subject where you would want them in the frame. Place one light behind them, probably about 6 feet or so, and pointed more up at their heads rather than just down. Again, we don't really want it hitting the ground, and sometimes even with a grid, it still will, just depending on how far away your light is from the subject and how condensed your grid is. The other light, the light that's going to illuminate their faces, I tend to like to put at a 90 to 45 degree angle from my subject. It's nighttime. I want it to look dramatic. I want to have a shadow side. So I'm going to make sure that the light is a little heavier of an angle in relation to my subject so I can get that look. I start off by using TTL. I turn on my lights, set my transmitter to TTL, and take a picture. TTL is just auto for your light. It's going to determine how much power, how much brightness should be coming out of the flashes based on the circumstances and the settings and a whole bunch of math that it figures out for you. Take an orange gel, a CTO, color temperature orange gel, and put it on the light that is lighting their face. It's your choice whether you want the light behind them to have the gel on it as well, or maybe you like the bluish kind of light that will end up coming from it. You may have to mess around with how many gels or how dark saturated of those CTO gels that you're going to put on the flash. Maybe it's a half, maybe it's a full, maybe it's 2 fulls, but it's all in relation to how much you've blued down your white balance. From there, take a few shots, play, and have fun. I certainly did on this shoot. We actually brought canned fog and sprayed it all around just to give the ground a little bit more of a mist, add a little something extra to the shoot. So my goal here, I could shoot this in natural light because I have a nice window here, but I want to utilize the flash so that I have more control over the light direction, where it's coming from, in relation to where I want to shoot. And for this one, I want to get the lights that we have on the wall. They're different colors. It's pretty fun. They're actually Christmas colors at the moment. But we'll use that, and we'll use this V-flat to make my little light a big light. So let's shoot. I'm gonna get a little lower.
Yeah.
And try to do go like in this way so that, yep. And then you could look towards me. And kind of nice.
Please.
Cute. And then kind of just do this. Yep, that looks good. Yeah, that's perfect. Hold that there. Your hair like cascades down, so it's a lot of fun. Cool. Let's get some horizontal. There, the light on you is like gorgeous. Pop of color to these photographs with these gels. These are the magnet gels and have lots of colors. So let's do red and blue and make purple and see what happens. Pop that gel on. And ideally what I do with this is this just becomes kind of more of a fill light on this side. Well, that is her main light. And then somewhere in there, it'll mix and create a little bit of purple. I think. I've never done this. This is now the party house, guys. Make crazy faces. Yeah. Cute. Do you have headphones? Can you borrow his headphones?
Oh, I was like, what's happening?
Yeah, just put them over, like pretend like you're DJing. Yeah, yes, yes, perfect. Oh, I love it. We have canned fog, atmosphere, aerosol. What were we thinking? Exactly, all right, go ahead, spray it up. We put the light behind so we can actually see the smoke. Just go, keep spraying. So we're turning off the lights so we can see more of the smoke, and this is working perfectly. So lowering my main light, but still keeping it on, so we get just a kiss of light. Cute. More up. Nice. I think we got it. We're all choking. I've got a light hidden in this little alcove here. This is the Profoto B10 with a 2-foot Octa softbox on it. I have it pointed kind of up really because I wanted to light more of the bride's face, Juliana's face, versus the floor, and these are a lot of shiny surfaces. I don't want a lot of reflecting going on, so that's where I have that positioned. Let's take a shot with this first so you can see what it looks like, and then we'll mimic it with on-camera flash. So I have my settings f4, 500 ISO, and 80th of a second. I've got this on TTL so it can determine the amount of light that should be coming out of that's appropriate for this scene. It's like deadly quiet in here. There we go. That looks gorgeous. Nice, and then looking at me. Perfect. All right. So this is what it looks like with off-camera flash. Definitely a lot more control, definitely what I would prefer, but if you don't have this option, here's what you can do. So I have the Profoto A1X, we're just gonna pop onto my hot shoe. We're not gonna change my exposure at all. I wanna keep this as close as possible from one image to the other. So let's go ahead and turn this on. I have this set to TTL, just like I did with the other light, but instead of it coming from one side, it's gonna bounce off all of this white that I have here. That might work, might not, might produce something different, but let's give that a try first. Beautiful. Gorgeous. All right, so this looks pretty good. In fact, arguably, this looks a little bit softer because I'm bouncing off a much larger light source, but the point of this video was not to create a larger light source, it was to create a similar look to on and off camera flash.